good afternoon, and good evening, wherever in the world you may be. Coming live from my living room here in Crewe in the UK, and it's a fairly chilly evening, hence why I'm a little rugged up, because it's a lot warmer down here than it is upstairs. So earlier on, when I asked Spirit what they wanted to speak about this evening, and the word that I got was commitment. And as I sat with this topic and I pondered on the word, and again, it's one of those that you could approach from multiple angles, to be fair. And so as I was writing what it meant, this is what came out. And we have our commitments within our physical world. So we have commitments to our friends, our family, financial commitments, going out to work, working in your own business maybe, and doing whatever you can financially to provide and to make sure that everything, you got food on the table, etc., etc. There are formal and informal agreements and commitments, so there are those as well. So contracts, when you sign something with work, for instance, or when you make an agreement with a friend or a promise, that in turn is a commitment as well. Then, of course, there are commitments within intimate relationships, marriages, engagements. Yes, I promise I'll do the washing up. Or, yes, I'll do the hoovering. And within those words, you've committed to do that action because you've committed that energy to doing it, verbally to begin with, and then later on actually carrying it out. But I would also suggest that there's another kind of commitment, and that's a commitment to self. And this quote really struck me earlier. Without commitment, you cannot have depth in anything. And I'll read that again. Without commitment, you cannot have depth in anything. And that's by the American author Neal Strauss. So to have commitment to self is to forge a depth within. And that's regardless of circumstances, you show up for yourself and in turn, your soul and your spirit. For they live through us in ways they may not have been able to do whilst they were here. And this can be in many ways. This could be life experiences. This could be within love. For so many people, allow feuds and arguments and family disagreements or the wounds from the past affect how they conduct themselves within their day-to-day lives, and especially within intimate relationships with spouses, with the family, even with friends and maybe employers and colleagues as well. And with all of this in mind, and whilst external commitment is of course necessary within life, the greatest commitment you'll ever have is to yourself. And I'll just give you a moment for that to sink in, that the greatest commitment you'll ever have is to yourself. And this is to your own happiness, to do what makes you happy. Now, within that, not obviously, sorry, lovelies, within that, when we conduct ourselves and when we make commitments to ourselves, it should never be at the misery or deliberate misery, should I say, the deliberate misery and hurt towards others. When we make that commitment to ourselves and within our own soul and our own spirit, and we do it through self-care and through self-love, how other people respond and react is going to be their business, because they will be coming from a place that they've only met within themselves. And as they work on themselves, they will, should they choose to, of course, it's all free will choice, like we all do have in life. When they meet themselves to a greater depth, they'll be able to meet you to a greater depth, you see. And within this, when they meet themselves to a greater depth and you do in turn and so on and so forth, through looking at themselves, through diving to the depths of what has happened or what is holding you back, then you'll be able to, and they will be able to in turn, help themselves to a greater extent. I hope that makes sense, lovelies. I really do. And within that, there's a contentment as well. We are responsible for our own contentment, for our own growth, and for our own healing as well. And when we commit this to ourselves and stand in our own power and truth, we in turn give others permissions to do the same. Please excuse me if I'm tripping over my words. I've been up since like 4:45 this morning, so please forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, and I appreciate your patience there. So, and when we do that, when we really dive down to the depths within our soul and our spirit, and we go through and we sift through what we need to do, and we make that commitment to ourselves to heal, we make that commitment to ourselves to let go, we make that commitment to ourselves to shed the things that no longer serve us. We move ourselves a little closer to God because we are healing that which needs to be healed and that which is holding ourselves back. And sometimes we don't realize what that is until we make that commitment. And I would suggest that our emotional health, our mental health, the health of our soul and our spirit are just as vitally important as the health of our bodies. In fact, I would suggest that it is all connected. It is all connected. And I would suggest that so many, well, in my experience and observation, so many forget about the soul and the spirit and the emotion because it is a harder place to delve into than it is, say, going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week or taking a walk around the block. Because for so many, the physical aspect of life is all that is apparent to them. So that is what they focus upon. And when the unfoldment starts to happen and the expansion of the soul starts to occur, we cannot help but really look and introspect the wounds and the sore bit throughout life that we need to look at. And when we do that, when we allow that to happen, and when we look at that which is laying dormant, we allow the jewels and the beauty to arise from deep within. So to exercise the self-nurturing, to take that time to commit to self, to commit to your own health and to your own beauty, to your own benevolence is a good word that I'd love to use. Benevolence. We're benevolent to ourselves. We forgive ourselves for that which has gone before when we knew no better. And we make that commitment to ourselves to do that. We heal not only ourselves, we heal all that have gone before us and all that come after us. Just as a stone ripples outwards when it is thrown into a pond, it cannot be helped to have a ripple effect outwards, upwards, and along our timelines. So when we do that inner work, And when we strive to be the person that we always needed someone else to be for ourselves, for us, be that parents, be that caretakers, however it may be. When we do that inner work and we commit to ourselves to show up for ourselves, that is the greatest gift we can give us and our loved ones. Because as I said a moment ago, when we do that, we give others permission to do the same. And when we give others permission to do the same, they may have that aha moment, and so on and so forth, my lovelies. And if you consider that for a second, isn't that a marvellous thing? To be able to facilitate that healing within somebody else because we have led by example. So when we commit to ourselves and we show ourselves the love that we so richly deserve, reminds me of a quote by Buddha: "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." Night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much and see you next week.